I hope it's audible. You
Yes,
hear?
audible. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. 상한제 주다 주제 주나라 잔주 받아 담이 자서 다기 주소 진배 주남전로라 편제 산전로가쇼 산제 주다 주제 주나마 잔주 받아 담이 자서 다기 주소 진배 주남전로라 편제 산전 산제 주도 주제 주나라 잔주 받아 담이 자서 다기 주소 진배 주남전로라 편제 산전로가쇼 관계 투진이 관계 띵진 저원죠 가봐면 지면 쳐봐면 따면 보면 타대 되면 되면 주반이 제시되면 조배선이 만나죠 담바들라 차원들라 도배 차원나 선제 서지 자치 공화와 구도선 배우셔다 군대 돌아 차원들로 니 되셔와 천나 구신이 이제 텐제까지다 도 라펜바드나 나시 이제 지대 두주 제바가 간다ян다는데 돈은 넘버고 있는 나존데 손바 你对讲究准备做些商业金融的拉查在咯。我们都接现在把他们这金对嘛，说那原点讲自己的信息了，查找了，他们对查找我就给人家说那东西，记得的那就寻找去了，查找了。这来这来人的老巴的来的那性格的嘛，有那跟着那样查找了，三节做了查找，做不去了查找了，跟着去了查找了，送了大的不晓得查找有了，但是那现在不觉得你。这都不也那个都出的特别差在咯啊，嗯，okay. So, good day, everyone. Here is good morning. Greatness of the teaching. Show me the greatness of the teaching. So where we okay, showing the greatness of the teaching. Okay. Showing the greatness of the teaching in order to engender respect for the instructions, the greatness of the teaching. So, yeah, maybe just to remind you a little bit of the why we are doing what we are doing, right? So, Dharma practice, you mustn't rush that you mustn't have a kind of rush in your mind that we must finish this Lamrim text, or like you need to reach at a certain point in certain time. Like you mustn't rush anything. Yes, you can have those plans in place, but we mustn't rush. So we have not just one life, but many lives to come to practice the Dharma. But that being said, we mustn't waste this life, because yes, we do have many lives, but we never know the rest of other lives that we are going to take are unpredictable as to whether we're going to take a rebirth as a human beings or not. Therefore, seizing this opportunity while we still have this Dharma, while we still have the opportunity, very fortunate to have Dharma, and Dharma exist and flourished, and also the unbroken lineages of the Dharma that has been passing down from really great, amazing masters, from excellent masters to another excellent masters, all the way down to our root gurus. And Dharma is widely practiced, and the community of that practice still exists and still at some point flourishing. So in such a precious time, and that is very rare to achieve, only achieve after, it's like a once in a millions of lifetime. Therefore, we need to grab this opportunity. Therefore, Lam Rim teaches life. So the greatness of the teaching and the greatness of the author. So Lam Rim is started by introducing a great author, telling us who is the author and who is the wrote this the Lam Rim text, or Lam Rim, the founder, I would say, the one who actually put it together, and in a simple way, that put together in a simple yet very like a deep and very extensive at some point. So, but in a very simple way, presented in a 3 persons capacity, and that is available as a very handy book for us. And even Tsongkhapa took it further to explain in more detail and associated with all the relevant philosophical understanding, and all the way to Theravada and Mahayana and Tantrayana practice. So how to reconcile all of these, what is appeared to be contradictory. So that's how Lam Rim has been taught, and why we're doing is because we, as a Dharma practitioners, first we need to have the intention to listen to the Dharma, not just because to have some like a good feeling times, or just to have some kind of respite from the busy schedule, busy, doesn't listen to the Dharma. You mustn't spend Dharma time just because you need to have a good moment, or just to have a from busy life. It's not just like that. It is fine, but it's not all right. There's always we need to look at our motivation very carefully. Therefore, Dharma sessions will be a very good Dharma practice. Otherwise, it will be tainted, or it will be compromised. The effect of the Dharma practice will be compromised, or it has been weakened, reduced to a not very significant one, comparing to the right done with the right motivation. So the right motivation is such that actually your intention, that will the purpose of Dharma, or the intention that will mainly the focus on the at least a good rebirth, and eventually from good rebirth to another good rebirth, and eventually to be able to exit from the samsara as a whole. So to remove, or to completely the cause of suffering that are actually afflictions, and the root cause is stemming from the root cause of that ignorance, or the misconceptions around self, and then self, and then your possession, and then to your whatever that is, that thing that you think you being a part of, then you will have a attachment to it. It's starting from yourself to all this universe. You will have attachment, and then because of that ignorance and that attachment, there is need to fulfill that attachment. Therefore, need to fulfill, urge to fulfill that attachment, then the mind will think of all kind of tactics, like they pull the tactics like, violent, or maybe some very cunning way of doing things. So all together, then we will create only negative karmas. Because of that negative karmas, through the motivations, through the actions, mind, body, speech, action of mind, action of speech, using harsh words and all sort of things, and then bodily, actually doing a negative act, harming the sentient beings, killing, stealing, all these things, all the negative, all the 9 unvirtuous things will be committed as a result of that. Therefore, the root cause is from the ignorance. So therefore, that's how we create a negative karma, and then that perpetuate the continuations of the circling in samsara ever and ever, with the understanding of that, the weight of the suffering, the weight of the cycle of rebirth, as to how we have to go through the birth. Birth itself is a suffering, and then aging, and then sickness, and then death, and the cycle of that thing. It's not just the human. If it's just human, maybe it's comparatively bearable. Other realm, such as hell realm or hungry ghost realm, other like a animal realm, all these realms where the suffering is like a unbearable and very harsh suffering you experience. We made samsara through that way, meditate on the suffering, and then eventually you will see how the samsara is like a horrible place to live, and then you will have some what we call renunciation, or actually the sweet honey on the blade, which are actually deceiving you to get more and more into samsara. And that's why those pleasing appearance or pleasing experience that you experience through the 5 senses, most of them are basically leading you to us more kind of want, or more kind of it only promotes desire for this kind of enjoyment, and it will perpetuate. It will only increase. The more you enjoy it, the more it get increased. Therefore, seeing those nature of the cunning samsaric entertainment, samsaric enchantment, knowing these as a lead, to suffering nature. And suffering itself is a suffering. Since samsara, whole samsara, even the pleasure, even what is called pleasure or entertainment, are seen as like a hook to the suffering. Therefore, then you will see it's entirely like a suffering nature, and you will then develop renunciation to run away, renunciation to not necessarily run away, to combat with the root cause of them and get rid of them, actually overcome these sufferings and reaching to the nirvana. So that is the practice of the Dharma, where you have those knowledge, or where you have these kind of like a sense of sense of seeing the nature of the samsara and wishing to break through this samsara, or wishing to reach nirvana, or wishing to exit from this samsara. So if you, with that in mind, I'm actually spending time, take time to work on that. That's why I need to learn the Dharma. That's why I need to deepen my understanding. And that's why I have to choose the right path, choose the right practice, the practice such as Lam Rim that will guide you through the paths, guide you through the paths in a very simple way, yet in a very precise and very deep and easy to understand and very practical, with all kind of the philosophy and the stories of the great masters, and relatable, all kind of relatable things that are put together to enhance your understanding, deepen your paths. And that's how it has been put like that. And that's how we are very fortunate to have these available. And then the paths like all the 5 paths and 10 grounds will gradually develop with the practice of Lam Rim. So with that motivations of leaving the samsara, of eliminate the root cause of samsara, seeing how the root cause of samsara misconceptions is responsible for creating all kind of unbearable samsaric sufferings. So we have to go through all these sufferings anyway. So it's not like just kind of a Cinderella story or whatever the story. It's something that we have to experience literally, like the suffering that we are going to experience in our next life, or the life and the rest of our life, is just like experiencing suffering now. So thinking that way, we need to find a way to find a solution to that, of that suffering, why and how it has been created, and what are some of the ways that we can actually reverse that cycle of suffering. So with that in mind, motivation, wishing to exit from samsara, aspiring to achieve that nirvana, the total removal of that suffering, the chain of the suffering, to reverse that, a circle of suffering, all this, 12 dependent origination, the Lugdo, reverse and forward, the 12 dependent origination, to reverse and to exit from samsara. I'm very fortunate to have this opportunity to practice teachings like Lam Rim, which is taught in a very simple way, and which we have been try to understand, deepen our knowledge around it, and we are now reaching at the point where the greatness of the teaching after the greatness of the author. So these are being taught to remind ourselves the great teaching itself, how the masters in the past have taught, the past have experienced and practiced it, and then that master, out of his experience and how he has been qualified and how he has been scholarly, gained all the knowledge and experientially gained knowledge, and how he's been, what kind of practitioner he is. So he's a great yogi at the same time. He's a great philosopher, and all the teachings he left he thoroughly studied and put to test what kind of teaching is relevant or not relevant. So he left turned. Therefore, he not only just learning being yogi, but the lineages of different schools of thought were also kept intact, so that he can pass down it to the other masters, so that whoever that sees certain school of thoughts find it more effective, more helpful, will then be enjoy practicing those the school of thoughts and lineage that are passing down without compromise or without being tainted by other misconceptions and misunderstanding around it and wrong views. Therefore, we have these teachings and the greatness of authors as, just to remind you a little bit of how he is a great master. And then that teaching that comes from tracing all the way back to Buddha Shakyamuni through Tsongkhapa and then Atisha, and then going back to the great masters like Vajra, not Vajra, Nagarjuna and Arya Asanga, Nagarjuna, Arya Asanga, and all the way back to Buddha himself. So this is the teaching that is the greatness of teaching is, and greatness of author is to basically to inspire, to get that kind of wand of that teaching, to get your mind to create such kind of spiritual ambience, to prepare your mind to enter towards the Dharma by seeing the great author has did such a practice and achieve such a kind of path and realizations, and then that greatness of author and greatness of the teachings are being mentioned here clearly, and you must get that kind of inspiration. You're supposed to be getting inspiration from this teaching. That's how we now have, or we are practicing that kind of path. The practice has become a part of that whole, and we need to point. We are at the point where we are trying to cultivate the inspirations of the Dharma, to practice in the Dharma through understanding the greatness of author and the greatness of teaching, so that the greatness of teaching here. Yeah, well, I didn't confuse some of you. So here the greatness of the teaching. So greatness of the teaching has been mainly taught by these four guidelines, four topics. The greatness of enabling one to things are free of contradiction. The greatness of enabling one to that all of the scriptures are instruction of practice. The greatness of the enabling one easily to find the conqueror's intent. The greatness of the enabling one to refrain automatically from the great wrongdoing. So I think greatness of the one. Okay. I think we have gone through this first page, and now I will continue reading from where we left. I think the greatness, and we want to know all teachings are free contradiction. Yeah. The greatness of the enabling one to know that all of the teachings are free of contradiction. Thus, because of engender of the certain knowledge through wise operators always. Okay, let's go. Let's continue from Bodhisattva make it equal to accomplish the good for all living beings. Okay, let's go from the greatness of enabling one to know that all of the teachings are free of contradiction. With regard to the teachings, Avalokitvarata's commentary on the Lamb of Wisdom, I think that I have explained that. Concerning teachings, the scripture of the Bhagavan accurately teach that which is to be thoroughly known, and that which is to be eliminated, that which is to be manifested, and that which is to be cultivated by deities and humans who wish to attain the ambrosial state of a non-abiding nirvana. I think we are here. I remember I explained to this paragraph already in the last session. So now let's go from this. After this, thus the teachings are what the conqueror explained well. Here, in the context of the Lamb for the path to enlightenment, to know that all the teachings are free of contradiction means to understand that they are the path by which one person becomes a Buddha. Yeah. So when you the greatness of enabling one to know that all of the teachings are free from contradiction means when you see some teachings are like some teachings says certain things, particular things, and other teachings says some other things that appears to be contradictory. Yeah. So these contradictory things will be then resolved or reconciled. You will be able to reconcile it because when you practice Lam Rim, there is a 3% capacity, right? 3% capacity of the practice in the Dharma that taught in a 3 capacity and a 3%, lower level or medium or the higher level. So there's 3 levels being taught. That's why all the teachings that is sometimes contradictory seem to be contradictory. It might be helpful with a certain higher scope of person or maybe lower scope of person. So maybe it's not very relevant to you, but it's relevant to some other practitioners. So you will easily be able to incorporate them as a practice because these practice at some point very helpful to get to reach you to certain levels. Therefore, you will be able to easily reconcile those teachings so that you won't be struggling to have this kind of misconceptions around some of other teachings that are to be abandoned, which is very negative karma, very heavy negative karma you will create there if there is ever the time where you actually abandon the Dharma or you regard a certain part of Dharma as not very useful or even completely useful, completely useless. So if you see the Dharma, part of Dharma like that, then it creates what we call the karma of abandoning Dharma, which is the weight, the consequences of the consequences, the fruit of that kind of abandoning Dharma brings you is somehow Buddha says unimaginable, like inexplainable, because if one of the sutras says, if he explained it to you, you probably won't be able to bear it. You're probably going to have something hard-headed like that. So it's a very heavy karma you are creating if these kind of abandoning Dharma, occurred to you. Therefore, you must be very careful not to see other school of thoughts or other traditions as not like as not respectable or not you're not honoring their path, their practice, their traditions, because most of these different schools of thoughts have relatable sources from Buddha Sutra. So therefore, all of these teachings are very authentic teachings, stemming from same root. Therefore, they are to be respected, and in order to avoid creating this negative karma. So therefore, you will see all these teachings is a means, or like the factors to bring you to the nirvana, or to become you Dharma, or become you Buddha eventually. You will see them as a path that is eventually leading to the Dharma. Some are the main points of the path, some are the various branches of the path. You will see that some are the main point. Some of the teachings are like a contributing practice. So yeah, because we are Mahayana practitioners, these are some kind of, like a Hinayana, or, belittling them, or seeing those teachings are like a less importance. It's not like that. You have to start from there. Even if we claim to be the practitioner of Mahayana, we are not Mahayana yet. Mahayana, to become a Mahayana and follow the Mahayana teachings are different. We follow the Mahayana teachings, but we are not Mahayana yet. In order to become Mahayana, you have to have the compassion and loving kindness, or bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is such that the strength of compassion, loving kindness, such that you are willing to give up even your precious life for the sake of even like a one single sentient beings. If that kind of the realization, or that kind of achievement is constantly there, has never been compromised, never been, like it could be disturbed by some events, but if it disappeared, if it's kind of disappeared in, like a certain times, and you don't have the ability to restore it immediately, then you are not there. You are not Bodhisattva yet. Yes, you might have some compassion at some point, but to the point where you are willing to give up your life for every sentient beings, every single sentient beings that you come into contact with. So if that kind of realization, that kind of achievement sustains, it stays there as long as you want, then you are Bodhisattva. Then you are really, then only then you become Mahayana. But you are not Mahayana yet if you don't have that realization, that achievement, or that bodhicitta. But we are listening to the Mahayana teachings. That's why we are Mahayana followers. But we are not Mahayana, not even Hinayana. Because we don't, Hinayana means Hinayana, there at least the renunciations should be there. So if you don't have even the renunciation, you are not even at the level of Hinayana, or what do you call it, preparatory path. So Bodhisattvas, from the text, Bodhisattva make it their goal to accomplish the good of the world, all living beings. Bodhisattva make it their goal to accomplish the good of all living beings. Since Bodhisattva must take care of students who are followers of all three lineages. See, the Bodhisattva is, whether you are Bodhisattva or not, is actually determined by that thought, that practice of compassion. Bodhicitta, having bodhicitta or not, will determine that if you are Bodhisattva or not. You don't have to get confused. You will see yourself, you know yourself better than anyone else. So that if you have that bodhicitta, then you are Bodhisattva. If you don't have that, you are not Bodhisattva. Even though we take Bodhisattva vows, we are not Bodhisattva yet, but it's not that the practice is wrong. It is absolutely very a great practice. So if it's like, if you are trying to mimic them, you are trying to emulate their understanding, their thinking, their way of life, it's very precious. That is the only path that is capable of actually bringing you to the nirvana, or not just nirvana, great nirvana, taking you to the Buddhahood, the state of the omniscient mind and great enlightenment. So that path is very precious. That without bodhicitta, there is no possible way that you could have gone to Buddhahood, great enlightenment, become Buddha. The Buddha nature will only be ultimately, or letting the Buddha nature blossom to its most extensive, to its fullest possible extension, will only be done by having bodhicitta. Understanding of emptiness is wisdom that is capable of getting rid of, eliminating the root cause, that is misconceptions around self and phenomena. Once you are eliminating them, and without the bodhicitta, you become arhat, arya. You are going to nirvana, just nirvana, not the great nirvana, not non-abiding nirvana, not great enlightenment, not Buddhahood. So you are free of those sufferings, and you dwell in that peace, that nirvana, that absorptions of that, the kind of meditative state, and you are not able to come back from that meditative state to help sentient beings to become like a Buddha, or to become the one who actually use all the miracle powers, all the possible means and tools to help sentient beings constantly, without stopping, without endlessly helping sentient beings without missing a minute. So there's capability, there's ability to help sentient beings in a most possible way, will then be not achieved if there's no bodhicitta. Bodhicitta will help compassion, the bodhicitta, loving kindness, compassion. Bodhicitta will enable the understanding of wisdom to become a Buddha. Therefore, bodhicitta, those who have a bodhicitta, those who are bodhisattva, will never left anything behind, will see all the practice of Dharma as a very precious, because let's say Hinayana practice or Theravada practice or certain portion of Theravada practice. These are the teachings to be not only just listening to, but experientially understood, experientially gain the realization onto it. If you don't have those realization on that particular teaching, that is claimed to be Hinayana, seen as a lower practice, then if you don't have this realization, if you don't have them practiced and experientially taken on, then you wouldn't have that lineage to pass down on the sentient beings. Whoever sentient beings that is try to find a way to exit from these suffering samsara, having this renunciation, and you want to show path to their sentient beings. That's how you, Bodhisattva, help sentient beings, exiting the samsara. If you exit nirvana, you come back to samsara. So exiting the nirvana, exiting the samsara. So taking, if you really want to help sentient beings, help them exiting from the samsara, you need the means and the tools and the techniques, or this all the mechanisms have to have in place. Therefore, every single path that has been taught in the Dharma, different lineage, different schools of thoughts are to be adopted, not to be abandoned. Therefore, Bodhisattva will practice any possible the means and tools that have been taught. Therefore, they cherish the practice of other schools of thought, other lineage. Therefore, Bodhisattva make it their goal to accomplish the good of the world. Since Bodhisattva, here in the text, since Bodhisattva must take care of students who are followers of all three lineages, those of Sravakas, brother, and the Bodhisattvas, they must train in the paths of those three lineages. See, as Nagarjuna's essay on the spirit of enlightenment, Bodhicitan Vivarana, says, Nagarjuna's essay on the spirit of enlightenment says, because they engender in others certain knowledge that accord with their own, the wise apply themselves always and without mistake. See, because they engender in others certain knowledge that accords with their own, because these kind of you understand your realizations onto the lower level or higher level, whatever the levels that you are at, if you are still practicing the other lower levels or that levels that are not relevant to you, still you practice them and teach them so that it will engender, it will help engender certain kind of knowledge or understanding of the Dharma in the students or the person, whoever the sentient beings that you come across will strive to understand the Dharma, will then become a contribution to their practice. And that's how you help sentient beings. So if you don't have them in place, you wouldn't be able to help in that way. So according to their own understanding or their own level, you will be able to teach them. The wise apply themselves always and without mistake. The wise one refers to the Bodhisattva. Bodhisattva will always learn all of them, put in practice themselves, and then share it with others, and then help other sentient beings who are reach certain level and certain teachings needed them. They will help accordingly. And the Dharma Kittis here the text, and the Dharma Kittis commented on the compendium of valid cognition. Brahmana Vartika Karika says, Dharma Kittis commented on the compendium of valid cognition, says, it is difficult to explain to others the result of cause that are obscure to oneself. Therefore, if you have not ascertained something exactly, you cannot teach it to others exactly. So it is difficult to explain to others the result of a cause that are obscure to oneself. You see, as a result of the cause, something happened in, whatever the event. If you don't know the cause of that suffering, that event, you cannot tell, you cannot guide others through you cannot help or guide others perfectly. I mean, like in an informative way. So because you don't know what causes this problem. In order to address the cause of the problem, you need to know the cause of the problem. So the difficult to explain to others the result of the cause that are obscure to you. If the cause, if where it caused, the way it comes from, why it happened, if you don't have those know-how, if you don't have the full information, if you don't have the kind of understanding of the cause itself, then you wouldn't be, if it is being obscured to you, you wouldn't be able to tell others, you wouldn't be able to guide others through their suffering. Therefore, if you have not ascertained something exactly, if you don't practice them, if you don't know them nicely, if you don't know them exactly, then you are not in a position to teach others the guide and the path. You see, by stating text here, by stating those benefactors of being, by stating those benefactors of beings who accomplish the good of the world through the knowledge of the paths. Those benefactors of beings who accomplish the good of the world through the knowledge of the path, Ajita indicated in the ornament of clear knowledge that knowing the paths of the three vehicles is the method for Bodhisattva to achieve the goal they have set. Also the mother of conquerors. Yeah. So yeah. Let me. Okay, we still have time. Let me take some questions if you have some questions, or if I confuse you guys a little bit here. Yeah, please. Otherwise, okay.
Venerable Gisela, just now Gisela has explained quite clearly about the practice of the bodhisattvas. But can Gisela please explain what are the practices of the Shravakas and the Pratika Buddhas? What's the difference between the both of them? Is it in their practice or in their sort of like accomplishment, or is it their result
Result of
the
what?
practice? Yeah, the results of their practice. Like the end, is it
Okay.
nirvana or is it the great enlightenment?
So what did you say? The what Buddha?
The Shravakas and the Pratika Buddhas.
Pratika Nirvana. Okay. So in Tibetan it's called Nyente or Ransanji. And in English, Nyente, the hearers, or the Ransanji is like a self Nyente hearers, and I don't know the English.
The self realizes or something like that.
Yes, that self-realizer. So hearers and self-realizer. So these two are actually accomplished the path of Hinayana, or general practice, the foundational practice, like the renunciation. Through the renunciation, you see the samsara as a suffering nature, and you have that kind of renunciation strong enough to generate the wisdom to exit from samsara. So that when it comes to closer to the fruit of that practice, like nirvana, then they actualize nirvana in a little bit different way. One, the self-realizer accomplish that path, or eventually they were able to actualize the nirvana through sitting, through avoiding contact with others, mainly like even without a teacher. Sometimes, they did have this path practice many other lifetimes. Without teacher, there's no possibility. But at certain point, let's say I have been practicing the paths to go to nirvana for like many lifetimes, like maybe 100 lifetimes. Now I come to a point where I can actualize the result on my own without depending on the teachers as well. So when you come to that point, then you don't want to be disturbed by anyone. You will then go only solitary, and you will never in contact with anyone. You will actualize your realization on your own, and you become what called arhat. You become like a arhat. So that if you're still alive, you become arhat, and you are free of suffering, but you still dwell in your body. So there's a lot of things going on with him. So he can exit from this body, this samsara, anytime. He is actually reaching the point where there's no more samsara in him, but he still dwell in this body. But he has the freedom to leave. When he leave their body, and it's like he's jumping from this body to another state of mind. It's just like that for him. So he does that, So that's how since that practitioner doesn't rely on lots of teachers and other sentient. He doesn't want to be associated with lots of other sentiment, but he does sometimes give teachings. It is said that he doesn't like to be appeared during Buddha comes in this world, because once Buddha comes, all these peoples are busy with the teachers' teachings and Dharma, the seeking Dharmas and seeing, their practitioners as come to pilgrimage or worship them. Therefore, they don't like it. When Buddha comes, they disappear. They will then exit from their dwelling place, or even if they don't, they will then go deep into their meditative level and stay there for forever, actually, until there was a certain time when only Buddha can wake up from that kind of dwelling meditative place. So those are like what we called self-realizer. They're self-realizer mainly because they don't need to depend on others like teachers, whoever. They are capable of going to the nirvana on their own. That's why they are called realizers. In terms of the result, hearer and the self-realizer are same, reaching the same nirvana. They are not going to Buddha. They call the second one, self-realizer, is called, there's a term, Buddha is there, because his knowledge or his the capacity, his quality is a little bit higher than, at some point, a little bit higher than those who are hearers, in terms of, let's say, like the depth of clairvoyance or other, miracle powers like that. But in terms of the path, they're reaching at the same path. Arya from the hearers and Arya from the self-realizers are reaching at the same nirvana. There's no different nirvana. They reach the same nirvana, but the means to reach there was a little bit different. One is more, or maybe more knowledgeable. The other one is maybe less knowledgeable about many different things, but they got the same path. They got the same, the main path, or the primary path. They are on the same primary path, but different means, because of because of the levels of different means. These differences come. The way they realize themselves through themselves, without depending on the teachers. Hearer need to hear teachings and from a lot of learning, and then they will make that happen. They will make it to the nirvana. So that's the mainly differences. Hearer will be associated with the people, with the practitioners, with the world. But solitary realizer, I think, solitary realizer. Yeah, solitary realizer or self-realizer. That one doesn't. Just that's the difference. That the results are same, but they are not become Buddha yet. They're not reaching this great enlightenment. They reached enlightenment, so to speak, but they're not reached at the great enlightenment that will determine the state of Buddha. Okay.
So, Geshe-la, so does that mean that under the 4 philosophical schools, these 2 levels of practitioners, the hearers and the self-realizers, are they following the lower schools of philosophy? Does it mean that?
No.
That is different.
It's a very complicated. 4 schools of thought. They could be following all the 4 schools of thought, but they will choose one particular path that is relevant to them. So there's let's say 4 schools of thoughts. Let's say Madhyamika. Okay, they must become Madhyamika to exit from samsara. 4 schools of thoughts are teaching the right path that will take you to the nirvana or the Buddhahood. But then 4 schools of thought, one of these schools of thought associated Mahayana practice as well. But the real practice, let's understanding of the wisdom or emptiness must be according to Madhyamika, from the perspective of Madhyamika. But others, they must be from their way. But from Madhyamika, the solitary realizer, or the hearer, all of them, in order to make it to the nirvana, they must be the practitioner of Madhyamika's view. So yeah, so it's that four school of thoughts are not determined, but yes, there's sometimes there is a time when the four school of thoughts will be called like a Mahayana tenet and Hinayana tenet. They do, but Hinayana tenet means the first one, like Sautrantika. This first one, yeah, mainly follows the only Hinayana practice. So, but in order for them to understand the emptiness correctly, they still need to go to need to understand the emptiness correctly through the applications of the Madhyamika's path. But the teachings that has been taught from their perspective, these are also authentic teachings that are derived from Buddha himself. They talk about selflessness, the reasoning of selflessness, and the reasoning of the Madhyamika's paths are very close. One leads you to the other one. So the view that is taught from their perspective, from their text, from their schools of thought, are authentic teachings. So this is the stone steps to understand the ultimate understanding of the emptiness. Therefore, these are authentic practice. Yeah. So sometimes it can get confused because this Mahayana tenet, Hinayana tenet, some texts say this thing, but that doesn't mean that Mahayana tenet followers are only Mahayana. There can be Mahayana tenet followers. They study them, they teach them, but they can go into hearer's path and become Arya from there. See, yeah. So historically, let's say Shariputra, Mungayana, all these great masters are like historically, they are great teachers, and they actually kept the teachings of Madhyamika, all these, teachings. But then themselves eventually actualized Arhat. When they're passing away, they just reach a certain level, and then they exit from samsara. Then they reach the nirvana, and then body become just, people see them as a body become like a dead or whatever. They themselves willfully exit from samsara. So that's true. Historically, they have a mention of how Shariputra, Mangalayana, they exit from before Buddha passing away. The disciples, some of them disciples just exit from samsara, did the final the job, and then that's final step. They just did finish the final step, and they don't want to see Buddha passing away. They want to go to nirvana just like that. So some of this, like Shariputra and other Buddha's disciples during those times, they kept the teachings intact, Mahayana teachings, everything. But then themselves demonstrated as the path that hearer's path, or the not solitary realizer, but hearer's path. Yeah.
Thank you, Geshe-la.
Okay. You're welcome. Any other questions? If you have questions, then we'll take some questions. Yeah. Yeah.
Geshe-la, I have one question. Geshe-la, I do have one question. Given that you're supposed to learn all the different schools of teaching, but I think at the present moment, is it suitable for practitioners like us to do so, because even in Madhyamika, there are very different schools of thoughts. Even in Nyingma, in Sakya itself, they have different schools of thought. Even in Chinese Mahayana, Japanese, Korean, right, they also have different schools of thought. So if you really learn and supposedly practice these different paths, schools of thought now, right, I think it will be a bit above most practitioners' capacity. I would rather say that, is it more suitable that we learn more only a few schools of thoughts, and only when we reach a certain bodhisattva level that we are proficiency, then we have to start to learn all the other different schools of thought in order to be able to teach other sentient beings.
Mm.
Geshe-la, may I add something? I think
Yes.
brother here, he has misconstrued the different schools of thought as from different lineages. But just now what Geshe-la meant, different schools of thought, was the different schools of the philosophical schools, not from the Korean or Chinese or Japanese.
Oh, no, actually, what I mean is actually, even in Sakya and Nyingma, right, the Madhyamika understanding actually is different from than in Gelug. And even in some of the other schools of teachings, right, their practices and their lineage, if you're really saying that Bodhisattva needs to know all the different practices in order to teach them, right, they do have different emphasis and actually practices also. So you are saying that on the whole, all the
Yes.
different bodhisattvas need to know all different schools, which I think what I'm saying is that in that sense, is it a suitable time for a practitioner to do it now, or should practitioners focus only on
Yes.
a more narrow schools
Yes.
of thoughts? Then when they have become a higher bodhisattva, they have a proficiency, then they go and attend to the other teachings.
Yes. Yes. So let's say it's a very good question. So I think let's give the example of His Holiness Dalai Lama. He actually received the teachings from Sakya, Nyingma, Kagyu, all of the teachings. And also Tsongkhapa himself comes as not as a Gelugpa. He firstly received teachings from Karmapa. He took refuge in Karmapa. Okay, and then one of his teachers is in the early part of his life. One of his teachers first, Kagyupa, and then Kagyu. There's a different lineage Kagyu. So first karma Kagyu, and then come to Digung Kagyu. Yeah, Digung Kagyu. And the Digung Kagyu, he studied there, he practiced there a little bit. I mean, like for 5 years, spent a whole lot of time actually to study. And then he went to other teachers. He was looking for the teachers who are really, really good at their teachings, regardless in Nyingma Sakya culture. So he went to Sakyaba masters as well. Then he listened to from Sakyaba master. Then his root gurus are from Sakyapa. And then so let's say Chinese, Koreans, Japanese, Tibetan Buddhism, all this different Buddhism, right? These are supposed to following the Mahayana. Those are Mahayana. They're basically following the Mahayana. So it's not necessary to go to understand how Chinese will do these particular things in their way. But the main purpose of doing those things is it has to be Mahayana practice. So if Buddhist practitioner like us, the main, let's say that I also went to attend one of this ceremony, and there were some Chinese sangha. There's no monks, but there are some Chinese sanghas came, and they did some like prayers and some ceremony. It was in Chinese, and they said this is the most powerful, and everything they did is the right one. All these things, they said these things. So I was listening to what they said. They actually saying the Heart Sutra, Heart Sutra, and what do you call this? Amitabha, Buddha Amitabha's prayer. So Buddha Amitabha's prayer is the prayers that we Tibetans also say. So we are basically following the same thing. Maybe because they say it in a different way. The pictures are a little bit different. So then I was checking what they're saying in the text. Then while they're reciting Heart Sutra in Chinese, I was reciting myself Heart Sutra in Tibetan. Okay, and I try to. I don't understand what they're saying, but I believe that they are going through all these what is beset in the heart. I just try to rejoice them like with wholeheartedly. I was so happy that it has been said in Chinese in different language. So sometimes we believe that okay, Tibetan is the only the teachings that come from Buddha, but it's not. It is also translation like Chinese. So it reminds us of that things as well. So these kind of things, rejoicing can be done, but that doesn't mean that Chinese teaching is completely different. It's the same, but in a little bit different style, different things. These are not even differences. The real difference is if the views are, if the right, if the you know, if their teachings, if that teachings, if a certain school of thoughts are like contradicted to the Buddha's teaching, then we wouldn't necessarily follow them. But as long as it, let's say they say Heart Sutta in Chinese style with some Chinese tools or whatever, but they are doing the same thing that we are doing. So that is not difference. Yes, culturally it may seem a little bit different, but that is not the difference. The real difference is like you said, Sakya, Kagyu, Nyingma, those have a little bit different little understanding of the emptiness, the view, right? Those are the differences. That's why in Tibetan tradition we have a little bit different schools of thought, have a little bit different understanding, but their differences is not entirely different from the Madhyamikas. They are all following the Madhyamikas understanding of emptiness. Sometimes, somehow, some teachers explain in a little bit different way that is not really like a relevant or that are not in line with the right understanding of emptiness. At such point, we have a little bit of debate, do debates. So that could happen. If that happens, then that understanding of the emptiness still needed to be further examined as to how come they understood in that way, what the source they have and what they are actually related to. And as long as there is some source, as long as it actually enhances the practice, still we need to respect them, honor them, learn them. If, let's say, I'm a Gilupa, but there's a Nyingma student come to me to learn their concept, and I will be teaching them that so that I will be able to do that. So Bodhisattva will not only the Dharma, but they will learn everything. Bodhisattva should learn everything, even to how to do the business, politics. That's why there's a Bodhisattva become kings and queens. All this. Bodhisattva would never, Bodhisattva do all the means, the tools to teach the Dharma, to support the Dharma, to make the Dharma available for everyone. It could be through financially, it could be through politically, it could be through powers, it could be through any means that Bodhisattva will do. Therefore, Bodhisattva, like His Holiness Dalai Lama, he practiced all of them. He practiced Dzogchen, teach Dzogchens to the Dzogchen students. Recently, I met one Dzogchen practitioner. He said he sees Dalai Lama as his root guru, as a Dzogchen practitioner. So he said he has that relationship. So just like that. So that's how we just like foster that harmonies within the practitioner, within different school of thoughts. Yes, historically, lots of this practitioner has been divided, mainly because of not the practice itself, but because of political elements sneaking into it. Okay. I hope I get your question. Did I?
Actually,
I don't know.
partly lah. What I'm saying is that when is the time for practitioners to really truly take on all these things? Because you see, you also need to have politics. You also need to have all these things, Bodhisattva learn. But as practitioners on the path, especially we are beginning now, right? I mean, some of these things probably will not be so uh appropriate for us to learn now. For example, politics. I don't think I can learn politics now. I don't think I can influence the country in a good way now. I mean, that things are. So what are those? They probably are. We probably have to have some main points and things that we just have to concentrate on for the time being before branching out. Even if occasionally you say that yes, the texts are the same, but even the Chinese schools, they have their own schools like Tendai Buddhism, the Huayan Buddhism, which was they have their own system, and although generally it's the same, but there are subtleties, there are differences also, just like between the schools. So in the end, I mean, if we really think that we can just go in and learn all this at the present juncture, I think this is not a possible thing for most of us, whether in terms of whether we have time or whether we have the talent to actually even
Mm,
accomplish this.
mm. Yeah, it's very true. But we are not. If you become Bodhisattva, if you have time, you can learn as much as possible. You can, but that doesn't mean that we have to learn. We need to have the wish to learn them. If I, let's say if I go to China, if I see this Chinese different school of thoughts, I will probably most likely to wish to know them and do the things in their way so that I can relate to them, help more sentient beings. That should be the ideal way. But I'm not now. I'm not learning them because it's not available for me that easily. Once these are available and you are capable of doing it, you're in a position to help them through their understanding, through their lineage, through their practice. You must. But if you're not in a position, if you're not Bodhisattva that yet, if you don't want to take that like a responsibility too much, like going out, learn all of them, while you are not like that Bodhisattva yet, you are stressing out, maybe you were not able to appreciate them, then it's definitely not in a position. But Bodhisattva will be able to reconcile everything. They will see not the differences, but that the oneness, that they have similarity. Let's say the Gelug tradition or Nyingma tradition, even Sakya Kagyu tradition, different tradition, even within their schools of thoughts, they have a different ways of doing things. The pujas, torma styles are completely different. There are 4, 5, 6 differences, even within one lineage. But these are not differences. These are different little bit of style of doing it. They are doing the same thing. The understanding of the real path. Real path happens only through the understanding of the emptiness. The emptiness understanding is the same, then it's the same school of thought, but different. That the ceremony, other things, lots of could be a different. But this is not, that difference is not the benchmark of having a different school of thoughts. So it depends. So yeah, like you said, it's maybe some of us must stick to one particular things, one particular lineage, because that is more relevant to you. And at some point, if you don't find others' way of doing things are not very relevant, let's say some of the sanghas, they don't want to attend some of other teachers' teachings because even though there's the same prayers, the way the tune is different. That's why they don't like it. So that happens. That definitely happens. The tune is different. Even though Heart Sutra, some students chant in a little bit different way, and they don't like it. So that's not the real difference. Yes, their personal. That's your personal perception. They think there is a difference, but in reality, it's not difference. It's the tune, or you say it in a little bit different way, but the core of the teachings are same. That's why it's not different from the school of thought. From the perspective of, they are not capable of creating a new school of thought. There's only 4 school of thoughts in India, even in Tibet, 4 or 5. That doesn't mean that every practice are same in that way. Just 4 types. No, there's multiple ways of doing things, multiple ways of creating, like practice the Dharma. Yeah, I hope maybe I still don't understand your question. Yeah, great, good questions. So we only have 10 minutes. Okay, if you don't have any questions, we'll just wrap up today's session. How about that?
Okay,
You have
last call for questions. Anyone else have any clarification? You may want to post your clarification to Geshe-la now. If okay, I'm calling once, calling twice. Okay, calling twice. Okay, so now we will go to our dedication prayers. I
yes.
see it full screen now. Okay, the teachings here. Okay, we will do our dedication now. Dedication prayer, long life prayer of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. In the snowy mountain paradise, you are the source of good and happiness. Powerful Tenzin Gyatso Chenrezi. May you stay until samsara ends. Praying for our teachers' perfect health, praying for teachers' ageless life, praying their works will grow and spread. Bless me never to part from them. Due to this merit, may I soon attain the enlightened state of Guru Buddha, so that I may be able to bring all beings to this very enlightened state. May the precious Buddhi mind not yet bound arise and grow. May that bound have no decline but increase forevermore. Just as the blessed Buddhas of the past is dedicated, just as the blessed Buddhas presently existing is dedicating, just as the blessed Buddha of the future will dedicate, also humbly learn, follow, and dedicate likewise. In regions where the supreme precious Dharma has not spread, or it has spread but then declined, may I illuminate that treasure of happiness and benefit your mind deeply moved by great compassion. May anyone who merely sees, hears, remembers, touches, or talks to me be free in that very instant from all suffering and abide in happiness forever. For as long as space endures, and for as long as living beings remain, until then, may I too abide to dispel the misery of the world. May I be a protector for those without one, a guide for all travelers on the way. May I be a bridge, a boat, and a ship for all those who wish to cross the waters. O venerable compassionate gurus, we seek your blessings that all coming debts, obstacles, and suffering of modern sentient beings may without exception ripen upon us right now. May it give our happiness and benefit virtue to others and thereby invest all beings in bliss. Okay, Geshe-la, over to you now.
다게 지내서 미경원에 때날 줘 그나 강변에 제가 지정 노선 장 때문에 님보는 사제 쇼 제와군도 양다 라마다 재미 주제 거라로 사달란도 되는 도지 장가고 번요도 주 장주 스교를 뭐지 맞지 봐도 제주제 제원냐 하면 뭐야 거는 건도 배워 쇼 강을 자유 거비 신가서 편단데 뭐만 좀 지내자 뭐 띵띵 장주의 샤베센데 봐도 띵조르지 지대에 배자가 담지 되면 주내서 무슨 만촌게 그거 그신 체리 내메되지 템버를 쇼 장바베 제대로 참아나 kunda서 뭐 대한 되지 되다 kun지지서 다른 교환되다 감지라도 뭐 저래서 좀 무슨 저 비셔서 뭐한데 okay thank you bye bye everyone.
Okay, thank you, Geshe-la.
Thank you, Geshe-la.